Hey guys, welcome to zsah's webinar session. I'm Nina Cheng. I'm the marketing manager at zsah. I'm happy to meet you all, and it's my pleasure to host this webinar. We are happy to have Amir Hashmi, CEO at zsah, here to discuss how to unlock critical value from data using cloud computing. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, and we welcome any questions. So don't be shy and feel free to send any questions at any time through the Ask Questions section on your control panel. Amir will answer all the questions you have after his presentation. Now over to you, Amir.
Thanks very much, Nina. Thanks for that. Let me just share my screen. And we should be good to go. You see my screen, Nina?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, great. So I'll kick off. So thanks everyone for joining. I realize it's a Friday afternoon, 3:30. I will not go on for too long, hopefully, and I'll keep this quite hopefully concise. We've got 30 minutes or so for the talk and maybe a bit longer for questions. So obviously feel free to ask any questions, and I'd love to be able to go into more detail on this topic and anything surrounding it. So feel free to reach out to me, or any of my team, and we'll be more than happy to have more of a conversation and dig deeper on anything. So today's talk, as Nina kindly mentioned earlier, is how we can unlock critical value from data using cloud computing. And this touches on lots of topics, and I'm going to cover them off hopefully, and give you some good insight into this. So let's crack on. Just very quickly, just a quick slide about me, just so you know a bit more about me, I suppose. And I find it easier and nice and informative to let people know, a little bit more information. So, I love business strategy and technology. It's something that I have a deep passion about. I'm a family man, so love my family, love my parents, and then they're number one to me. I'm a big believer in empowering people to do their best, but the key thing with regards to that is sorry, to do their best consistently. So not just over a few days or a few weeks or a month, for example. It's to do your best consistently, and that means that we have to find a good balance between all the things that we're working on and how much time we put into projects, for example. It's a big topic, but I believe this consistent part is very important. I love mentoring and advising and seeing others succeed. It's something that I personally just really enjoy, and I'm always up for just being able to help others. It's fantastic. And then just generally speaking, I'm a basketballer, snowboarder, gamer, driver, play golf, and I just generally fiddle with everything. I just love to do that stuff. Love to be active. I think an active lifestyle is healthy and it's good for the mind and body. So that's enough about me. I'll crack on. So let's just start with something. Right? We've dug straight into kind of seeing this kind of chart, and we've put this up on purpose because it's just a general good view for us to see the kind of growth in kind of cloud compute, not just cloud computing, but the growth in how applications have gone to the cloud. So we've seen a steady incline since 2011 to now, or 2020. So the blue line is the incline. It means that organizations have at least one application or a portion of our computing infrastructure in the cloud. So we've seen that increase, and I think we all know that, right? We've seen a slight decrease in organizations that plan to use cloud applications, and that's mainly because they're already in the blue line, essentially. So they're increasing. So again, this slide just backs up what most of us already know, that there is a growth in cloud computing. And if we were to plot further ahead, I think we would see that, we will, and hopefully see that blue line carry on upwards. And that's what this slide is really supposed to show you. This is a very interesting slide. It's quite busy, So I wouldn't worry about too much of it. But the key kind of points to look at here with regards to applications and services that are being migrated to the cloud. If we look at the blue arrow at the bottom left, which is next to data analytics and data warehouse and BI, business intelligence, that's the more relevant line to this talk. We can look there and see, we can see that 30% of organizations are currently migrating or already deployed in the cloud. So that's a fair size. But then we have 15% and 15%. So the blue and the gray are planning to migrate. So whether it be in the next 12 months or 12 months to 3 years, essentially, that's what that 30% is. So that's a large number, combined. So 30% are planning on migrating. 4% have already migrated, and they're planning to move potentially out of the cloud. And another 4%, the other blue next to that, have migrated but planning to move to a different cloud model. And that's very interesting. And I think many of us here who understand the market or have seen the market will know that people have made bad decisions with regards to moving to the cloud and realizing this platform isn't for me. Maybe it's more expensive, or maybe it's not as efficient. Therefore, I'm going to look to move to another platform. And that I think we're going to see more of as cloud and the uptake of cloud and the use of cloud gets bigger and bigger. So they're very interesting. I mean, certainly when I saw these figures first, I found them very interesting. And then we have 7% which are currently building from scratch, and then we have 25% which don't have any plans. So 25% is a fair amount of people to be, I suppose, reached out to. But again, the thing to really notice here is that we have lots of activity in the space, and specifically with regards to data analytics and business intelligence. So that this gives us an idea of what's happening in the marketplace, and what kind of numbers of organizations and the split of people having moving, and then moving within the cloud as well, which is very interesting. When it comes to actual moving to the cloud for the public sector specifically, what we've certainly come across is safety certainly appears to be one of the main obstacles when it comes to moving. And we come across that in other kind of industries as well. So in the private sector, depending on the actual specific vertical you're in, we find a different level of worry. But generally, safety is one of the key areas and the key obstacles for many organizations moving to the cloud. There are various others, but the safety aspect is certainly key. But the question really is, right, is it safer to keep your data on-prem? Yeah. And when I say on-prem, I mean on-premise. So it may be in your organization's data center, for example. And that on-prem kind of term, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's secure. Security comes through good process, it comes through compliance and governance, and it comes through education of an entire workforce. So just because something's on-prem and your data is on-prem, it doesn't necessarily mean it's secure. I'm going to cover some more security elements a bit later, because I think they're important. Because we're talking about data in the cloud, naturally people ask about security. If we just compare, I'm going to cover on these slides, I'm going to cover off a few things with regards to comparison between on-prem and cloud. We're talking about security, and we'll be talking about performance and everything as well afterwards. So on the left, you're seeing that column is on-prem, and on the right, we've got cloud. So we're just comparing them both. So if we look at workload, for example, the security is generally your responsibility if it's on-prem or on-site. With regards to cloud, we share the workload with other vendors. So we don't have to, in terms of our own IT teams, we can share some of that workload with your managed service provider or managed cloud provider, for example. Again, if we look at expertise, which is the next one down, if we're on-prem, then we generally will have to configure our own system. We'll have to have a high level of expertise. We may have again a managed service provider that does that for us, but that will be pretty much in-house. With the cloud, we will have a third party, a managed cloud provider maybe, and even we may have skill sets from the actual cloud provider as well, which is key, and there is a benefit there because they will know their cloud the best. In terms of location, this is an important one. So we were talking about security earlier, and we were talking about security now, and security measures on-prem and resources are limited to location. Whereas with the cloud, the security model is blanket across the whole cloud platform. So that means that wherever we access our platforms from, wherever we are, we have the same uniform security model and security levels. Whereas when we're on-prem and we have a data center, if we're talking about the UK, for example, and we've got a data center in London, and then we've got a data center in Manchester, then the security levels have to be managed individually, and there may be differences. If our processes haven't allowed us to have a uniform security model across both locations, then they may be unique to some extent, and they may cause us problems with regards to a uniformity around our security models. And then the same goes for compliance. So again, a cloud platform, so public cloud platforms or even private cloud platforms, there will be a level of compliance that's standard across everything, across the whole cloud platform. But again, with regards to our on-prem locations, because most of us will have more than one location for our on-prem kind of infrastructure, we need to ensure that we've got compliance at the individual level, and depending on how many locations we've got. So we can duplicate a lot of work, and we can actually make it a bit more timely and costly for us to manage the compliance. If we look at the actual cloud analytics, so if we look at on-prem analytics and cloud analytics, and we compare these two now, we look at scalability. So on-prem, so something with on-prem and on-premise infrastructure, is that we tend to buy it outright. We tend to potentially lease it, but the point is we tend to buy it in chunks, and we have a finite amount of it in our local data centers or offices or wherever this on-premise kind of infrastructure is. Therefore, we can only use so much performance, so much storage, and if we need to add to it, we need to order some kit. It takes a while to come. It needs to be tested and installed. And scalability on the cloud is, in theory, unlimited. So you could in theory have as much storage as you want. You could have as many virtual machines or compute cycles as you want in theory, because you're buying it as a service, almost like a utility. So the scalability is one of the big benefits of cloud over kind of on-prem. And that's specifically with regards to cloud analytics. And going back to the topic of this talk, extracting that value from our data becomes a lot easier with cloud, right? Because we have that ability to scale. Quite often, our data requirements, our data storage requirements are quite big when it comes to analytics. They're only growing, they're only getting bigger and bigger because we're storing more and more data. We're loading more and more data from different locations, from different sources, and we have to store that data, and then we have to process that data. So the more data you have, the more processing power you need, and the more storage you need, and potentially the bigger pipes you need. So again, cloud just offers that ability to scale, whereas on-prem has some quite hard limitations with regards to scale. Accessibility is one that people quite often kind of overlook, and that is that there's a benefit to on-prem. I think hopefully you will see that I'm being as open as can be with regards to with on-prem. It's not that cloud is always better than on-prem. There's some advantages to on-prem. So one of them can be that on-prem access to applications is fast because it tends to be on your network, whereas cloud tends to be connected to via the internet, and via a secure way of the internet. But then you're left to the speed at which you've got the connection to the internet. So, for example, if you've got your workforce is working from home, like most of us are at the moment, and we have home broadband issues, this is something that's overlooked by many organizations. And we have home broadband that doesn't have an SLA on it, and there are speed issues, for example, or there's even connectivity issues. We might not be able to work effectively. Luckily, many of us have phones, we can use 4G and things, but these aren't professional kind of levels of ensuring that our employees and us as workers can access our platforms. So an on-prem system can be faster in theory than the cloud, in terms of accessibility compared to a cloud platform. It's not always the case, but it potentially can be. In terms of cost, we talked about cost earlier, or we talked about the way we implement on-prem. We have to buy a load of kit, and there's a big kind of capex cost, and you don't necessarily see the value of that equipment because much of it may not be used. Yeah, you're buying a huge amount of equipment potentially, and you might only be using a quarter of it with a view to using 100% or 80% of it. Again, with cloud, you can pay as you go. So you can say I want 10 terabytes of storage, for example, and you don't have to buy 100 terabytes to use 10 terabytes. You just literally pay for what you use. On the recovery side, we've got potentially higher downtime with regards to on-prem because we've got equipment that we're managing ourselves. It can get old, obviously, and sometimes our buying cycles aren't correct, so we can have equipment go out of warranty, for example. We see this all the time. These are all fairly kind of straightforward and kind of maybe obvious items, but we see failure of platforms due to equipment that goes out of warranty, for example. We see that happen, and that leads to business disruption, and ultimately we're not able to get that value that we want from the data that might be on those systems. On the cloud, we've got quick data recovery. So generally speaking, if most cloud platforms will have disaster recovery built into them. There have been some kind of fairly high-profile incidents with regards to some of the big public cloud services not being able to deliver the data recovery or disaster recovery side of their platforms at all or quick enough. There have been some news items on that, and these are areas that the cloud providers are improving. However, it's a very important point, and it's something that should be considered when considering a cloud platform. And I'm going to cover some of that later on in this slide deck. So let's look at how cloud analytics works. Yeah, we can kind of summarize it. We've actually very much simplified it here for you guys, and each of these steps can be broken down into multiple steps. And again, like I said at the beginning of this presentation, of this talk, we're more than happy to talk to anyone about any aspect with regards to kind of cloud analytics and our data as well in the cloud. We can go into kind of any level of detail. I'm more than happy to help, but we've broken it down into 3 steps here for you. So we've got ingest, process, and analyze. So when we ingest data, I mean, it sounds simple, but it's essentially loading that data, importing that data into our platform, and there's various kind of processes we can do to the data at that point even, and there are different methodologies that various organizations and individuals use to ingest data effectively. But just to name just a couple of tools that might do that, and some of you may use these, or we've got various Apache tools that can do that. We've got sync sort as well, and we've got Wavefront. sorry. And then what we do is, and this is another key step, and it's mentioned as process. Process is when we transform this data, so this raw data we've got, and we make it information. So we make it into information. So it has a meaning. So we transform the data into information. And again, there are lots of different tools for this, but again, various ones that you may have heard of, may not have heard of, things like, again, Apache tools like Hadoop, for example. We've got Google BigQuery, and we've got Databricks as well. I'm going to cover a bit more on Databricks later as well. And then we analyze. Yeah. So the key thing, why are we doing this? Why are we ingesting data? Why are we processing data, making it information? Normally, and quite often is because we want to generate some insights. Now, whether we want to generate insight going backwards, looking at history, generate insights from current data, or we want to do some predictive analytics, that's our prerogative. But the point is that we want to analyze that data. Analyze that information, I should say. And there are various tools, lots of tools. We've got Tableau, we've got Databricks, we've got Power BI from Microsoft. There are so many, Click and things like that. There are lots of tools available for that. And again, we can, if anyone wants any more information on any of these tools, we can quite easily talk you through the kind of good tools and what tools are best for different scenarios and the type of data you may have. But generally speaking, that's how kind of cloud analytics works. That's how that's how our analytics work anyway, but how cloud analytics work specifically using those tools, because not all of those tools you can use on-prem. That's it's one of the whole points about being able to use analytics in the cloud. So why? The question is, why does the public sector need cloud analytics? This is a general kind of answer. It's not just to public sector, but I've got some case studies that I'm going to cover off later, which will explain some real life examples of kind of public sector organizations that have taken advantage of cloud analytics and actually attained value, right? Attained some super value, in fact. But some general benefits are things like higher agility. I talked earlier about cloud computing and how being able to scale it is one of the big benefits that cloud computing brings. So I'll give you an example. So let's say we want to get a proof of concept up and running. If we've got on-prem kind of infrastructure, getting a proof of concept up and running can be that much harder and that much more expensive. And the key thing is it can take that much longer to get up and running, because we might have to go through teams to allocate some space to us. They may have to purchase more equipment. They may have to free up some space. It can take not months. Hopefully it wouldn't take months. It can take days, weeks, and potentially months. Cloud computing, this is a non-production environment. We can just go out to a cloud platform and we can just say, hey, give me X, Y, and Z, and you've got it within seconds, minutes. That's true agility, and that's something that cloud platforms give you, straight away, and it gives us as business users, technology users, it gives us that benefit that we can actually go to market that much quicker. And when I say go to market, I mean go to market within our own organizations, to stakeholders, as stakeholders, and we can demonstrate ability much quicker. Again, we were talking about costs earlier, and we were talking about buying a load of kit versus potentially using a kind of utility-based cloud. Again, for non-production kind of applications or analytics applications that we want to launch, the cloud just makes perfect sense, because we may want this POC, this proof of concept. We might not want it for 12 months or a year, or 2 years or 3 years. We may just want it for a few days. We may just want it for a month. That happens all the time, especially nowadays, where our development capabilities are quick. So for that, for a quick use, if we want something for a month or 2 months or a year, or less than a year, using cloud is, lowers our costs. It tangibly lowers our costs, and potentially hugely as well. Our total cost of ownership, everything is lowered. And then the last point around customer satisfaction, I think, is when we're using cloud and we're specifying kind of the technical kind of detail behind a proof of concept, for example, because we've got the ability to move up scale. We can use elasticity to scale up and down. We can make sure that our applications and everything run at the speed that they should. There's a bit more control over that, and I think that quote, for example, from Daniel Summer, kind of shows that that we're used to. What we want to do is we want to give our users the kind of experience that they have, on their normal, in their normal day-to-day life. So, for example, if they're using social media or various chat applications, they're seamless. They don't tend to slow down, and that is the kind of experience that we want to give our customers, whether those customers are staff, again, stakeholders, partners, anyone that may be consuming our application. So that's the whys. And then what I want to do is I want to show you some of these use cases, just so you can see it in action. So the first one is around the Netherlands water management system. So if we look at the challenges, or the main challenge, right? So 1/3 of the Netherlands is below sea level. So the government has always and does require an efficient and secure water management system. And what they've done is they've used, again, cloud analytic solutions to take data. So this is real-time data from 15,000 sensors, 15,000 or so sensors, to identify changes in the infrastructure and the water. So sensors, sensors can pick up changes. It's not just on and off. They can measure as well. So we can measure the electricity. We can measure the functional, whether equipment is working, or if it's faulty. If it's faulty, where is it faulty? We can also measure, using sensors, we can measure the consistency of the water, to how effective is our infrastructure in treating the water. And I mean, that's been done for some time, using sensors. But using the cloud, the Netherlands water authorities have been able to take all of that data and put it all together, real time as well. So they can make real-time decisions around how efficient the system is, if there's any faulty equipment, how where is it, and how can we fix it. The cloud has enabled all of this because of the distributed nature of the water systems. And using predictive applications, the authority has been able to positively affect the budgets that they've had to set out. So just one example is, for example, with regards to gritting roads, when icy conditions are coming up, using predictive analytics, they've been able to essentially predict how and when they would need to grit the roads better than they used to. And that's by being more informed through the collective kind of nature of putting all of this data together, and then running something called machine learning, which again, I think most of us have heard about, but running machine learning to then do some real-time and predictive analytics on that data. So that's one use case. Another use case was the law enforcement and criminal justice officials in North Carolina. They used to have trouble obtaining kind of a comprehensive view of someone's kind of prior criminal records, and that was because of fragmentation. right? So we see this in the public sector here. I'm sure again some of you as the audience will see it as well and recognize what I'm talking about, in the sense that, you know, someone's record is kind of, it's ring fenced into a jurisdiction, and therefore is not really allowed out. So if I'm trying to find the full and complete record, criminal record of an individual, it means I have to manually talk to different jurisdictions in different areas and different offices, and I have to piece that puzzle together. By moving to a cloud analytics and a cloud data platform, they were able to scale the kind of data that they could store. But the key thing was to bring all of that. I mentioned about this kind of ring fencing, basically open those fences and actually bring all that data together. And therefore I could seamlessly, you know, it's a buzzword, but I could seamlessly then find someone's criminal records according to all the different jurisdictions in one platform. So the tangible value that was released, well, one of the pieces of tangible value that was released was, you know, a $12 million saving annually, and that was due to efficiency savings and time savings. So, you know, another tangible benefit that came was to be able to locate a vehicle, for example, that was involved, you know, from days to minutes. So, you know, the days thing would be because I'd have to contact someone who was on the other side of the country, and they would have to check their systems. They would let me know. With this unified system in the cloud, they could do that within minutes. So I mean, this is a great example because there were so many different savings, and I think it makes sense when you've got fragmentation, which we see all the time still. Having a cloud-based platform, you know, it can work wonders. It really can work wonders. Another example is from Western Australia. So road safety around in Western Australia has been an issue for some time. So the number of casualties and kind of accidents and serious injuries that we see there are generally above, or have been above, the kind of Australian national average. So so what they did was, by introducing primarily a machine learning solution and visual data mining, all in the cloud, they were able to essentially decrease the amount of casualties and injuries. So how was that done? It was done using predictive analytics, and it was done using or being able to, with a higher degree of accuracy, identify the probability of someone being seriously injured according to the location. So what they were able to do was able to see where accident hotspots were, but where they could also be according to the changing pattern of traffic. And then they fixed that by, you know, very simple means. So, you know, putting signs in the right places, putting warning signs in the right locations in service stops, for example. I mean, these sound like very simple solutions, but they're delivered through high tech, right? They're delivered through technology solutions, and again, the cloud brought this to be available. So they saw a 25% reduction in crashes compared to the previous methods that they used, which were very much manual and were very much looking back at historical data and not necessarily looking at very current, and not projecting into the future using machine learning. The cloud brought all this about, which was huge because it saved lives. So, you know, we're talking about value. You know, again, I'm driving this back to the topic of the talk, and that is, you know, how do we get value out of this data? I mean, this is a perfect example. So this is the last kind of case study I wanted to show you, and direction of travel as a service is actually something that we've built. So it's proven to have been really useful, and it is ongoing as a very useful tool being used by various people in the aviation industry. So the challenge was that due to COVID, it's been very difficult to predict if your flight will be cancelled. I've personally come across that problem myself, but speaking from the industry, and we're talking about the people at the airlines and people at the airports, they've had a big challenge around this. So what we did is that we put together a cloud-based analytics platform, which is pulling in data from lots of different sources. And we're doing, I mentioned about data and converting it to information. We're going through that whole process. We're doing it like nobody else is or has been doing it. And we built this to help the aviation industry to monitor recovering routes from the COVID, from the impact of COVID. So we can see when a route looks like it might recover, or we can predict when it can recover. It offers a detailed view on the pandemic and general travel restrictions as well. So we can see, you can see a map there. You can see, there's color coding. We can see where there are restrictions put in place. We can predict when they might be taken out of place. We've got news feeds coming into this. It's a really good example of the power of analytics, particularly in the cloud. And then another, again, value, a big piece of value that we get from this is that we're providing a travel confidence index that shows people the kind of destination routes that might become restricted. All of these insights, a lot of airports just do not get at the moment, or have never got. If they do get insights, some of these insights, then they're paying quite a large sum of money for that data or that information. And we put this tool together just to show really what you can do and what's possible. And when we're not charging anyone for this tool. We just wanted to help people and through this time and be able to show what we can do really. And we're using behind this service, we're using something called Data Park, which is our data platform. Behind Data Park here, we've got Databricks, which we mentioned earlier, and we've got Tableau as well. So what you see there is a Tableau front end. Happy to talk to anyone about this or about doing something similar to this for your industry as well. We're always interested in trying to solve problems and help. So yeah, happy to talk about this further. I just wanted to kind of start to end the talk with security, because we haven't really talked about security. When we talk about data and moving it to the cloud, security is one of the prime concerns. As I mentioned earlier in one of the slides, what's one of the biggest kind of barriers to moving to being able to use cloud data analytics is security. So I've just got one slide that I'm just going to briefly go over with a few items that we should keep in mind and we should keep on top of. So when we're moving, when we're using our data, we've got our data in the cloud and we're accessing it, for example, then these are just a few pointers. So for example, we should always use a strong password, and we should also use something called multi-factor authentication. So again, I think many of you will know this term already, or you'll have heard of like two-factor authentication, and it's essentially when we log in with a password, which should be strong, and then we might get a text message on our phone with a code in that we put in, so it's like a token, and that's just best practice when it comes to security. We say use an encrypted cloud service. It's important to, one, encrypt our data when we transmit our data, but it's also important to encrypt our data at rest where it's being stored. We can also limit the access to our cloud analytics platform by IP address. So for example, we don't want everyone on the internet to be able to log in, or try and log in at least. And probably the most important one here is to choose a reputable cloud provider and understand how they deal with things like data breaches and security breaches. Ask them these questions and get them to show you the policies and the processes that they have to deal with these. There's a whole other talk that we've done before as well, and again we can help you guys. We can help advise you on how to choose a good cloud provider. We've got some good resources on our website for that as well. That's super important. There's a whole checklist on that, and then just a bit more about us really, and it's relevant to this talk, and that is what we say to people is to focus on your core business, focus on your core business. And when I say business, as a public sector organization, you may not be a commercial business, but you still have a business in inverted commas. So focus on what you guys do. And we say to people, let us take care of your data and your cloud and your technology. It's what we've got expertise in, it's what we can help you with, and ultimately we can prove value. We can prove delivery of value to you. Just a bit more about us in the last kind of minute or so, 2 minutes that we've got on this. If you're watching the recording, then you can pause it if you wish. I will go through this fairly quickly, but just a bit more about us and what we do in terms of to help visualize it. We've got a service pyramid. We have our own cloud platform, so we are similar to AWS, Azure, and Google in the sense that we've got our own cloud platform. We also know AWS, Azure, and Google, so we do managed AWS, managed public cloud. We do managed grids as well, which is our own cloud. We do DevOps on top of either our cloud or AWS or Azure or Google. So we do all of the DevOps, and then on top of that, we do data analytics. Would love to be able to talk to anyone, a bit more about what we do and who we've done it for and the benefits that we've really brought people. Love to talk to you about that. And I think the key thing to mention there is that we're multi-cloud, so we can deal with any cloud platform, pretty much any cloud platform, as well as ours as well. And then we provide advisory and professional services around auditing, for example, auditing your data estate, auditing your cloud analytics estate, and doing risk analysis, doing things like data tracking and reporting back to you where your data is in your organization or outside of your organization. We can do that as well. We've done that with some really high profile organizations as well. In the spirit of time, I won't cover this. I will just mention here that private 5G is something that we're partnered strongly with Verizon. Verizon have a very good private 5G offering. There's a big data play on that. And if you don't know what private 5G is, just very briefly, private 5G is your own 5G network essentially. So we've got a national rollout of 5G, as we know. Some of us have 5G enabled phones, but you can actually set up your own equipment in your own campus. So in your own hospital, for example, your own airport, your own university, you can have your own private 5G network. And that means you can control the security, performance, and you can control applications on that network. There are some huge benefits that can bring using analytics as well, coupled with analytics, and it's something that we're doing some really cool work with. I've done a couple of talks on that as well, so you could probably Google and see and listen to those as well. That'd be great. Last slide, absolute last slide, and that is just on us. In terms of the kind of accreditations we've got around the public sector and some of the clients, we've got all the stamps. We do, we're on G Cloud, we're on Digital Outcomes and Specialists. We're partnered with Bramble Hub, which some of you might have heard of. We've got all the kind of ISO stamps and Cyber Essentials. So going back to choosing kind of a managed kind of cloud managed technology supplier, these are some things that you guys should be looking for. We work with the Planning Inspectorate, we work with various departments in the NHS, and we work with the Department of Transport, and we work with various other organizations as well. We've been doing it for a long time, and we know how we know the kind of challenges that people have and the way to get around those challenges. So yeah, that's just a bit more about us. I think I've gone on for long enough. It's been 30 minutes. I've gone on for 33 minutes, and like I said, I have not done this topic justice. I think it's hopefully what I've done is I've given you an overview, and I think hopefully given you some areas to give more thought to. And like I said, we're more than happy to talk and answer questions, and have sessions next week or in the future, just and go into any of these topics in more detail. But that's me. Thank you very much, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Very insightful presentation, and very great to learn from your views on cloud analytics. The use cases you shared also help us understand how cloud analytics could be implemented. So we're running a bit over time, so I think I will just cover one question. So I think this is a question that lots of people have. Does the cloud really enable anything new? From your point of view?
Interesting. Okay. So the cloud is it's a good question, by the way. It's a good question. So does it enable anything new? The cloud enables us to do large scale temporary kind of processing. Yeah. And I mentioned this in the talk in a few different places. So it does allow us to do some new things in inverted commas. It allows us to be able to be agile. It allows us to be able to say, look, I want to throw an application together across, and I want it to work. I know it's not so maybe relevant to this talk, but I want it to work across the globe, or at least in multiple different locations, and I can literally do that in I can do it in minutes. Yeah, in reality, it might take me a bit longer, but technically, I could do that in minutes. That is something new, yeah, compared to non-cloud, compared to if we're talking about on-premise, for example. So it does definitely allow. It gives us the agility and the speed to be able to test applications, to be able to share applications, to be able to show someone across, show someone that might be miles, hundreds of miles away from us, that's not in our organization, that's not connected to our internal network, show them an application, show them something that they couldn't have done, we couldn't have done before. So it definitely enables that. And that agility, just so we're clear, that agility, what does it boil down to? It boils down to tangible value in terms of being able to make business or organization decisions much quicker. So we may be dealing with a case, someone's case, for example, and by being able to be quicker and nimbler with regards to using the cloud, we could make decisions quicker. And also there was a case study that we just covered earlier, and in that case study we talked about being able to check someone's criminal record, their entire criminal record, and that the benefit, one of the big benefits, or one of the problems, and then the benefit was that there were silos, there were information silos. So someone's record was fragmented across the country in that instance. Again, the cloud now enables, and not now, for many years upon years, it's enabled us to break those silos apart, break those fences, open those fences up, and actually bring that data together. And while technically that's been possible in the past, it's been much more difficult to do. So the cloud has enabled that as well, and that gives us tangible benefit. It gave the country the law of the country, the ability to be able to search for people much quicker, from days to hours, which is a huge benefit to the country. And I think, yeah, I think that's really, hopefully that answers the question. I mean, there's a lot more. There's a lot more in terms of what the cloud, what I feel, and I think a lot of other people feel the cloud has enabled. But I think that's probably an apt answer.
Yeah. Thank you for all the detailed explanations. And I think cloud also enabled us react to work from home policy very quickly. So yeah, I think it's very great to learn from your experiences and knowledge around cloud analytics. And we want to thank you all for joining today's webinar. And I hope you all enjoyed the session. If you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to us at info@zsah.net or visit our website for more ebooks and blog posts around cloud. And we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.